And then also looking at our menu to identify which one of our weak performing not ingredients, but recipes, menu items. And we're gonna basically do that menu analysis a couple of times today in class. Um, and then you'll have some homework. There's three different homework assignments that are associated with chapter 4, and they all kind of build on top of each other. So there's one that you should focus on first. Once you master that, then move on to the next one, which will be like the assignment that we're going to work on in class today. And then finally, the last thing is the chapter 4 exam. All right. So let's get started. So in chapter 4, we're talking primarily about the menu as a tool that we use to sell the items that we are serving. Okay. Before we can develop our menu, of course, in chapter 3, we talked about using standardized recipes, figuring out how much our recipes cost. And now we're going to figure out how are we going to determine how much we're going to sell those menu items for. Okay. And then we'll look at our menu as a tool as a whole. Okay. So there's different things that affect the prices of which we sell our items. One of those things is one of those things are external forces that we have no control over. Our competition, we can't control how much they're charging for their menu items. And if we have a similar item, we have no control over that. So if people are oftentimes going, let's say we're a burger joint and we have a competition who also sells burgers. If theirs are cheaper, people might go try them first, right? Because just by looking at the pricing, maybe not the quality is the same, but just because the fact that they offer a lower price, sometimes that it affects what we charge for that. We also want to look at this price value relationship. How many of you have ever been to a restaurant before where you left after you ate and you're like, wow, that was not worth the price that I paid for that meal? It was way too expensive. Okay. That's that price value relationship. Do our guests assign a value to the price at which they're paying? Okay. Um, and if they don't see value in the price that they're paying, they're probably not going to be coming back. Okay. Now, how many of you have ever been to a restaurant where you paid a lot of money, but the service was impeccable, the food was delicious, the ambiance of the restaurant was really cool or it was really nice, and you felt like, okay, that was worth paying money for, versus the other experience where you leave feeling kind of gypped. Okay. So we have to relate back to that price value relationship. So some of the external factors that we have are market driven pricing. When I say the word market, what do you think of? Store. The store? Okay, what else?
Like around the area.
Yeah, so around the area. So that market driven pricing can also relate to that. Yes. Pen or pen? I'll give you a couple pencils. Um, yeah, that market driven pricing, that is going to be kind of along the lines of the competitors, but also the market in which we are in. Okay. We live in San Antonio, right? What do you think about what do you think about the prices of restaurants, maybe let's say in Chicago or New York? Pretty high pricing you might expect to pay. So sometimes you might think about like the clientele in your area, and they may not be able to pay or willing to pay, not that maybe they're not able to, but willing to pay the amount of prices. So sometimes, like we talk about like the New York market, you can't charge New York prices in San Antonio. People just honestly may not pay that, right? But there are some restaurants that do charge higher prices for an experience in dining, and one in particular I can think of. It hasn't closed yet, so that's a good sign that San Antonio is supporting it. What's that?
Oh, I was like, is it haywire?
No, I haven't been to Haywire. It is Nicosi, it's at the Pearl. It's in the new Pullman Market area. It's an 8-course dessert menu. Um, and they go through the 4 different flavor profiles of sweet, salty, bitter, and umami. And there's an appetizer and dessert for each course, and then there's a wine pairing or a cocktail pairing, or there's a mocktail pairing with it. And I want to say the cocktail pairing is like $175, $175 per person. Um, and they only seat 25 people, I think, in the restaurant. So everybody goes in at the same time, and you go through all the same courses at the same time. You aren't allowed to have your phone out. You have to keep your phone away. They actually even give you a sticker that goes over your camera on the front and the back, so that way you cannot take pictures. It's a pretty cool spot, pretty pricey. Um, that's what I like to call special occasion restaurants. We also have demand-driven pricing. Okay. When you hear the word demand, what do you think of?
How much people want it?
How much people want it, right? So picture this. You're at the Frost Bank Center watching the Spurs lose, but you really want to have a Whataburger. Okay. Can you leave the Frost Bank Center to go get a Whataburger and come back? No, you can't. You have to eat the Whataburger that's there in the Frost Bank Center. Does that cost the same as the Whataburger at the local neighborhood? It does not. All right. One of my students in my other class, they were talking about how they were at a game and they were selling Chick-fil-A sandwiches. It was a regular Chick-fil-A sandwich and a bag of waffle chips, not even actual waffle fries. And it was $20. Okay. That's market demand pricing. You have a captive audience. So stadiums, sports venues, concert venues, airports, anything like that is market driven pricing. Okay. Demand driven pricing. We already talked about the value price value relationship. Let's talk about markup differentiation. So this is something that is a concept that we can apply that essentially we cannot that's what I'm trying to say. So when we're looking at our average food cost percentage we talked about in chapter 1, we're looking at about a 30 to 33% food cost, right? That's our industry standard range. But we can't apply that for everything, right? That's the average of everything that we sell. Some ingredients that cost a lot of money, they have to have a higher percentage. The ingredients that don't cost a lot of money typically have a lower percentage. Okay. And that deals with that markup differentiation. So let's use a couple of examples. What's usually the least expensive thing on our menu for us to make?
Appetizer.
What's that?
Appetizer.
No, even less than appetizers. Not even less than salads. Even less than bread. Okay, water is a type of
Beverage.
beverage. There we go. Okay, we got there. So our beverages are usually the least expensive, right? That soda maybe costs us 25 cents. And that's being generous. Okay. So if my soda is 25 cents, how much do I usually sell sodas for?
Like $3.
$3. Okay, cool. So if we sell it for $3,
That's not what we.
oops,
Concession stand for $1.50.
our cost divided by our sales is what percentage? So 25 cents divided by $3. And what is my beverage percentage? You can use a calculator if you need to.
$8.33%.
Okay, so 8.3% for a beverage. Remember what I said? Low cost, typically low percentage. Okay. If I were to use a steak, let's say a steak cost me, I don't know, $35. So a steak cost me $35. If I apply that same percentage, this 8%, what is my suggested selling price? What is my suggested selling price for a steak with an 8.3% food cost?
16.
What's that?
42.16. Right?
No,
Yep, 420,
Oh, no, I missed it.
400 and
421.
421. Yeah. $421. Do you know anybody that's probably willing to pay $420 for a steak? No. But if we take that $35, right? We take $35. I'm going to come right over here. The higher our food cost, usually the higher their percentage. Oops. There we go. So let's call it maybe 45%. So $35 at the 45% food cost is what? Something like 80 something?
77.
77? Okay. $77. What is wrong with my writing in this top corner? $77 more reasonable for a steak? If you're at a steakhouse, I mean, obviously not like Outback or Texas Roadhouse, but if you're at the Palm Steakhouse or Bohannon's, you're looking at $75 or more for a steak. Okay. And that's just the steak. The sides are going to be like $10 to $12 per side. They're usually served family style, so usually two people can eat, 2 to 3 people can eat off of the sides. So $77. But what if we use that 45% food cost right here, or beverage cost? What is 25 cents divided by 0.45?
55.
55 cents? How many menu items, how many sodas do you see on the menu for 55 cents?
No.
We'd make no money, right? That's only 30 cents difference on every soda. And so this is how you use that markup differentiation. And there are some categories, there are some recommendations for the markups, the different ranges. And as you can see, those entrees have a little bit larger compared to the beverages that have a 90% markup. Okay. So we're going to talk about 4 different ways that you can actually cost out your menu items. The first way is our food cost percentage. So number 1 is the food cost percentage. That's that method that we use. What tool?
Triangle?
Yes, the triangle. Okay, so we're not going to actually do this method because we already done it quite a bit. But the food cost percentage method is number 1. The second method is the factor method. So the factor method essentially is very similar to the food cost percentage method, but it just allows us to do math a little bit more quickly. Okay? The way the factor method works is we take 100%, we divide by our ideal food cost percentage. So we take 100% and divide by our ideal food cost percentage, and that is going to give us our factor. So then all we have to do is multiply our recipe cost by that factor. Has anybody ever heard, like if you talk to a chef, sometimes they'll say, just take your food cost, take your recipe cost, and multiply it by 3. When you multiply it by 3, that's how much you should sell it for. Okay? Well, check this out. If you take 100% and divide by 33.3, what is your factor? It's 3. So they're basically telling you when you just multiply by 3, they're basically telling you figure it out at a 33% food cost. That's your food cost percentage. Okay. So what is our factor for the 25% food cost? What is 100 divided by 25? 4. So we're going to multiply this by 4. It's going to give me,
Oh my God.
oh, sorry, $2.50 times 4, $10. Okay. We could, if we wanted to, do our triangle. And we could do $2.50 divided by 0.25. It's going to give us $10. That factor method is just a lot faster. Okay. All right. So the next one. What is 30? 100 divided by 30 is
3.3 repeating.
there you go, 3.33. So we multiply the $3 times the 3.33, we get $9.99. All right, so what is our factor for 40%?
2.5.
2.5. So 100 divided by 40 is 2.5. So we multiply and we get what? What's $15.25 times 2.5?
38.13 cents.
38.13. Okay, perfect. And the last one. What is 100 divided by 10? 10. Equals 10. So we're going to multiply 15 times 10, $1.15. Okay. So if you ever have a question that says, using the factor method, you're going to take 100, divide by the yield factor, divide by the food cost percentage, and then that's your factor. So you just multiply the cost times that factor. The third method is going to be contribution margin. The third method is contribution margin. So, what is the root word of the word contribution?
Tribute.
Excellent. Contribute. So when we think about the contribution margin, we think about the food cost, the cost it takes us to make the ingredients, and then everything else contributes to our fixed costs and our profit. So basically our non-food costs. So what we're going to do is we'll take our non-food costs plus our profit, and then divide that number of guests that we think we're going to have. That's going to give me my contribution margin per guest. So if I have 5,000 plus 3,000, what do I get?
8,000.
8,000, good. That's this step right here. And then we're going to divide this by 2,000. That's this number of guests. And I get what answer? $4. So now I just add $4 to all my recipes. All my recipe costs. So we have 650, 7, 19.25, and $4.15. That's our contribution margin method. Does anybody see any issues or problems with the contribution margin method?
Always get that many guests.
Absolutely. The number of guests, we are guessing. It's a total estimation. So what happens when we only get 1,000 guests?
Divide by 1,000.
Well, we can't change our menu pricing on the fly. We can't say, oh, you just came in and you're only 1,000 guests, so I'm going to go ahead and add $4 more to the pricing. We can't change it on the fly, right? And so the contribution margin just allows you to take into consideration those non-food costs and your profit, okay? But it's not ideal. It's not perfect, okay? Um, it could be ideal if, let's say, you're a caterer and you're going to do a catered event for 200 people. Well, you know you're going to have 200 people at that event because you're charging the client for 200 people. So you could take your non-food costs, take your profit that you want to have, and divide by 200, and that's going to be your contribution margin per guest, and then add that to your food costs. So in that situation, it could work. Oh, real quick, let's look at these two comparisons. If we can take into consideration the menu prices, which one, 2, 3, and 4, which two, sorry, are the most drastic in difference in price that we're selling?
38.13,
$38.13, so that's number 3, and
$19.
so number 3, and then what's the other one that's the most drastic
19.25.
between this one and this one?
The really cheap option.
Yes, the $4.15 compared to $1.15. That could be our soda, right? The math tells me with a 10% beverage cost, I should sell my soda for $1.15. Well, what would happen if your guests are willing and able to pay $2.50 for that soda? Do you just say, nope, the math says I have to sell it for $1.15? I'm going to give up all that extra profit just because the math says $1.15. No, okay? You have to take a lot of these concepts into consideration when you're building your menu. Something else to take into consideration too. Sorry, let me go back to this one. $10 and $9.99. They are basically the same price, right? It's off by a penny. But psychology says that somebody sees this, and that somebody, by I mean that's me. I'm a perfect example of this. I'm like, oh, that's only $9. Because the first number is a 9. I'm only looking at that first number. That's only $9. But in reality, it's 1 penny away from $10. So if you have something for $15, sell it for $14.99. People are like, oh, that's only $14. Right? And so now that you start seeing all these tricks, when you see them out in the public and out when you go out to eat, you're like, I know what you're trying to do there. I know you're trying to get me to order that. The last one is our Q factor. That is our last method, number 4. The Q factor is essentially all the extra stuff that comes with your meal. So if you have an entree and it comes with bread and salad and I don't know what else. When you're in San Antonio and you walk into a Mexican restaurant, what do you expect to be on your table? Chips and salsa, maybe even tortillas, right? Are those free? No. You're not paying for them because they're not a listed item on your menu, on your receipt, but you should be paying for them in some way. Okay. So if those chips and salsa cost 75 cents, well, then there should be 75 cents added into every entree that you buy on your menu. And so the guest doesn't see, oh yeah, I paid $15 for my enchiladas and I paid 75 cents for my chips and salsa. No, I just paid $15.95 for my enchiladas, and that included the chips and salsa. Okay. If you don't do that and you're giving stuff away for free, okay, that's not a good business practice. You should be building that into the cost of that entree. So when people buy an entree, they can also get that other stuff for free, right? So things like salads, rolls, all those extra stuff that comes for free, you can add that all up and that becomes your Q factor. So in this case, we have all of these ingredients that are associated with this barbecue plate. That is our Q factor we add in right here. So then that way, if we have brisket, if we have sausage, we have turkey, maybe we have ribs, the protein changes, but all of this just stays the same. Okay. So that way you can, bless you. It's a lot easier to calculate all of that. Okay. Now, what happens if you have multiple sides, like multiple starches and multiple vegetables? Which one do you choose to include in your Q factor?
Most expensive?
Probably the most expensive, right? If I'm serving mac and cheese, green beans, and I don't know, some other side we eat with barbecue,
Corn?
corn, and pinto beans, right? I'm probably going to put in the cost of the mac and cheese. So that if somebody orders the mac and cheese, at least my costs are covered. But if somebody orders the beans or the corn or the green beans, then I'm going to make a little bit more profit because those don't cost as much. Okay. All right. So here we go. On your notes, go ahead and draw this, including all the words that I have circled. Go ahead and draw this on your notes page. I'm going to give you a few moments. I'm going to pause the recording. Someone please remind me if I start talking again to. All right, so this is the tool that we are going to use. This is a diagram that you'll see a lot in business where we have two different characteristics. In this case, we're talking about popularity and contribution margin. And we're going to be able to, in order to take these two characteristics, we're going to identify 4 different categories that our menu items might fall under. Okay. So with this, if we have, let me clear that. Hold on.
Did you start recording
I
it?
did, yes, thank you for reminding me. All right, so the way we use this tool is if something has a low contribution margin, okay, and it has a high popularity, we draw our lines, and where our lines intersect, that's the category that that menu item belongs in. So if it has a low contribution margin, or if it has and it has a high popularity, then that's where those two lines intersect. Okay. If something has high popularity and high contribution margin, the place those lines intersect is in the star category. Okay. So this is how we utilize this. Now we're going to look at how we determine popularity high or low and contribution margin high or low. Okay. So let's talk about contribution margin first. That's usually the easier one for us to grasp. So let's talk about contribution margin. Now we just talked about contribution margin as far as costing out our assigning our menu pricing. But with that contribution margin, it comes, remember, it's all the non-food costs and the profit, right? And so what we're going to do to find the individual contribution margin, we're going to subtract the menu price. We're going to subtract the recipe cost from that menu price. So if something we charge $9.95 this for this chicken sandwich, we are on the bottom portion of this front page. Okay, bottom portion of the front page. Our chicken sandwich costs $9.95. Okay, and we spend $3.50 to make it. So we subtract those two, and what do we get? Six what? 45. So that is my contribution margin. Okay. So go ahead and do the next three. The last four are already written for you.
Is this on a spreadsheet by chance?
It
Like if
is,
we're
yes.
downloading? Okay, awesome.
Yeah, this is the in-class activity in module 4. All right, so what is our contribution margin for our hamburger? 430?
Or 35. Yeah, or something.
475? Okay,
Yeah.
I just heard 430. I'm sorry, 475? Okay, what about crab cakes?
20.
420.
$4.20. And our chili cheeseburger? I got $6.
Oh,
Okay. So, what is our highest contribution margin?
Chicken sandwiches?
The chicken sandwich is the highest. Which one's the lowest?
the crab cake.
The crab cakes. Okay, so we got our high, we got our low, but what about the other category? What about the other ones in between? How do we find those? It's a great question. I'm glad you asked. Okay. So flip your page over to the back. Okay, it's the side that has the square on the bottom. So this top portion, go ahead and copy over your top 4 contribution margins right here in this next to last column. Let's just copy those first four in. So $6.45, $4.75, $4.20, and $6. Okay. The way we determine whether something is high or low is we want to find the average. We find the average first, and everything above it is considered high. Everything below the average is considered low. So, how do we find the average of any group of numbers? Add them all up and then
Divide by
divide by the number we have, right? So let's do that. Go ahead and add up all of these numbers, and then we're going to divide by what? We're going to divide by 8. Okay, so that add all those up, divide by 8, and tell me what you get. Add them all up. What was the total? Not the divide by 8, but what's the total?
$4.10.
$44.10. We divide by 8 and we get $5.51. So that is my average contribution margin. On average, it's $5.51. Okay. So my average contribution margin is $5.51. Now this is where we go and just do high and low. So is $6.45, is that higher or lower than, is that higher or lower than the average?
Higher.
It is higher. So this is on your back page, the top right here, this last column, the high and low. High and lower than average, okay? So that's what we're looking at here. So you're going to write H or L. So is 475 lower, 420. Both of our $6 are high. 475 is just below, 570 is just above, and 625. So that is how we get high and low for contribution margin. Find the average, and then compare each one. Okay? Find the average and then compare each one. So let me write this down. Perfect. All right. The next one. Let's go to popularity percentages. So our popularity percentage, how popular an item is. So we go back to the front page, right at the top. Okay, there's a blank space, number 1, number 2. Okay. To find our popularity percentage, we want to add up all the menu or all items served. So that's number 1. We want to add all the items that we served. So in this case, if I add all my items, I get 500 total. Okay. When I add them, we get 500 total. So on the bottom right here, you can write plus. Right here, you can write plus, and then draw a line, and right below that, put 500. Because we added up all these items on the table right here, and we get 500, just like you see it right here. Okay. Our second step, number 2, is divide each item by the total. So I'm gonna come up here, I'm gonna write divided by 500, divided by 500, divided by 500. Take each individual one and divide by that total. If I were you, as you're taking notes, I would go ahead and write this out because otherwise you're going to lose the information. You have to come back and watch the video. So write divided by 500. That way you know where we got these numbers from. Okay. So when we do that, these are our percentages. For your practice, I would recommend taking a moment and do those last 4. 100 divided by 500. 80 divided by 50, 500, 20 divided by 500, and 30 divided by 500. Which one of these has the highest percentage?
Bacon cheeseburger.
The bacon cheeseburger is at 20. And the lowest are corn dogs at 4%. That's our high and low. What about the ones in between? Okay. Let's talk about it. We are looking for our popularity benchmark. Okay. What is a benchmark?
Like the middle,
What's that?
like the middle.
So the benchmark is basically what like the level that we're comparing ourselves to, right? So if our benchmark is, I don't know, trying to think of something. Let's say I'm just gonna put it in terms. Let's say we have like there's 2 stores of the same company, and they want to find out who can raise the most money, right? And last year we raised $5,000. Well, that $5,000 is our benchmark. That's what we want to try to get to. Okay. So that benchmark is what we're comparing ourselves to. With the popularity percentage benchmark, we want to take 100% and divide by the number of items on the menu. So in this case, we have 8 items. So I'm going to take 100 and divide it by 8. And what do I get when I divide 100 by 8?
0.5.
12.5. So that's my average. Okay. My average is 12.5%. But for whatever reason, they say we have to apply this yield factor, or not yield factor, this percentage factor. So now I'm going to multiply this by 0.75. And what is 12.5 times 0.75?
9.3.
9.3, okay. That is my new benchmark. That is what I'm going to compare everything to, all of these percentages, to figure out whether it's high or low.
Will that factor always be there?
Yes, the factor will always be given. Okay. For my scenarios, the factor will always be given. Now, in the real world, if this was your restaurant, you get to decide what that factor is. Okay.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So why is the factors percentage, why is the decimal where it's at there, like for the 75%? And you said that it was 12.5% for where the 100 divided by 80 by 8 is.
Yeah. So 100 divided by 8, the average is 12.5. So this one, if we took 100%, just the number 100%, and we divide by 8, we're going to get the number 12.5%. Okay. Now, we're not going to convert that into a decimal. We're just going to say 12.5 is that number, right? That's what we're going to use. That's what we could potentially use to compare. But then when we use that factor of 75, that's where we're going to move that decimal place, because we're multiplying by that decimal. So think about the 12.5 as just a number, right? And then when we multiply by the decimal or the percentage, that's where we add the decimal in there. Does that make sense?
Yes. Thank
Okay,
you.
you're welcome. So 9.3, is the chicken sandwich higher or lower?
Higher.
It is higher. Good. 17% for the hamburger is
Yeah.
good. Crab cakes,
Lower.
lower. Chili cheeseburger, we know the bacon cheeseburger is higher. BLT,
Higher.
corn dogs,
Lower.
and veggie burger.
Lower.
Okay. So if you flip your page over on the backside that has the chart, go ahead and write these H's and L's, because that's what's going to be on the third column right here at the top. We have our popularity percentages. We have the H's and the L's. So go ahead and copy those down before we move on to the next slide. Give me a thumbs up when you are ready to move on. I know we're ready to go. All right. So, give me one moment. I'm going to copy my answers onto here. I'm going to use a pen since I have a little bit smaller face. No, but not yellow. That's not a good color. High. Low, low. Okay. And then we've got high, low, low, low. Nope. High, low, low, high, high, low. All right. So you have the diagram already drawn out, so I'm going to go ahead and draw mine. Bless you. We have the plow horse, the star, the dog, and the puzzle. Okay. So, which two categories are probably the easiest if you're going to look at just this information right here? Which two categories are the easiest combinations to see?
High, high, and low, low.
There we go. High, high, and low, low. So what I'm going to recommend as you're doing this, is you're transferring this into the categories. What I would recommend is that you just focus on one category at a time. Okay. So let's start with the high, high. That's our chicken sandwich. That's our star. Remember, contribution margin, popularity is over here. We have high and low. We have low and high. So if we have high popularity and high contribution margin, that is our star. So that's also going to be our chili cheeseburger. And that's also going to be our bacon cheeseburger. Okay. The other combination is low, low. That may be our crab cakes. What did I just do? Oh, shoot, I closed it. Okay. So this is going to be our crab.
What does the D and the P stand for?
D is dog, and the P is puzzle.
Oh,
Okay. That's our low, low. Awesome. And then plow horse and puzzle. Those are the two that are the most confusing. So here's the way I remember it. Okay. Puzzle. Another way of saying puzzle, another way of using the word puzzle is like when you're confused, right? You're puzzled about something, you're confused about it. So it has a high contribution margin, which means that it's above the average. So it gives us more profit, right? But people don't like it. So I'm confused as to why people don't like it. And that's my puzzle. Low popularity, but it makes me a lot of money. Okay. So if we have low popularity, this is our popularity, low popularity and high contribution margin, that's our corn dog and our veggie burger. And then we can just go with what's left over. High popularity, low contribution margin is our hamburger and our BLT. Okay. All right, so everybody take your hand, put it up in the air just like this. Face your palm to the back of the room. Bend your elbow. Pat yourself on the back. You have completed your first ever menu analysis. Congratulations, y'all. And all before 8 o'clock in the evening. How did you ever think that you would do a whole menu analysis before 8 o'clock this evening tonight? It's pretty impressive. All right, so let's talk about this menu analysis. Our stars: chicken sandwich, chili cheeseburger, bacon cheeseburger. People love them and they make us money, so that's great. we typically don't want to mess with our stars. Okay? Our dogs, we have crab cakes. Okay? What is unique about crab cakes compared to the rest of the menu?
Seafood.
It's a seafood option. Okay? But it doesn't make us a lot of money. It still makes us some, right? Because it's not like the cupcakes we had last week where it cost us more to make them than what we sold them for. In this case, it has just a smaller contribution margin. It's just below the average. Okay. So it costs us a little bit more to make them. So what could we do? What could we do with that crab cake if we don't want to get rid of it?
Special.
Put it on the dish.
Maybe make it a special, okay? So then that way it's only around, which means we don't have to keep those ingredients on hand all the time. Because is crab a cheap or expensive ingredient? It's expensive. So what happens is that
Expensive.
what if we don't sell it all that often, right? It's not popular. We don't sell it all that often and it goes bad. We have to throw that product away. If it spoils, then that's even more money we're losing. Okay. So make it a special. Good. What else could we do?
Integrate it in other meals.
Okay, we could potentially maybe have like a crab cake as the side on a dish. So maybe make a smaller portion instead of an entree size portion. Good. Because it is seafood, we might offer it during a seasonal time, like maybe Lent, when people aren't eating red meat. They're gonna eat. So maybe they don't want chicken as the white meat, but there's seafood as an option as well. So maybe we might have crab cakes during that time, and then every other time we just leave it off of our menu. Okay. The puzzles, corn dogs and the veggie burgers. They are not super popular, but they make us some money when we do sell them. So if they're not popular, does that mean we get them off of our menu? Why? What about these two items make them special
They pertain to a specific audience.
to a specific audience, which is kids and vegetarians? Okay. So maybe they're not super popular because it's just that specific audience only orders them. Okay. Now, corn dogs, unless you're making them fresh and dipping them into like fresh batter, but if you have frozen corn dogs, they don't take up much space in the freezer. Okay. And they're in the freezer, which means they can last a long time, longer shelf life. Okay. Maybe, I don't know. I don't know about y'all, but I've had some veggie burgers that are actually really good. Like a black bean burger that has a lot of spices in it compared to just like sorry, no, if there's any vegetarians here, I don't, no offense meant, but sometimes those veggie burgers are just not very tasty. They just taste like mushed up vegetables with hardly any flavor. But I used to have, when I worked in Maine, I ordered a black bean burger and I actually ate those instead of hamburgers because it was so flavorful. I liked it. Right. And so we don't want to get rid of that. Let's look at our plow horses. Okay. Plow horses. I don't know why it's called a plow horse. I didn't come up with these names. Okay. But essentially, what it's doing is it's doing its job. People love it and they come back for it. It's bringing people back to our restaurant. But for whatever reason, it's not making us more than the average contribution margin. Okay. So, what could we do potentially to help move our plow horse over to the star category?
Add other things to make it like stand out more.
Well, so if we added more things, that's going to add more to the cost, which then is probably going to even lower the contribution margin. So think about, Julianne, I think your idea would work if we were in the puzzle and we want to move it up to the star. So like bringing people's attention to something, like maybe marketing in it, or maybe having our servers ask the guests when they walk up to the table, "Hey, have you tried our new mozzarella sticks?" Okay, that suggestive selling brings people attention, so that brings it up more in popularity. But on the money side, we have two options. We can either do one or the other.
You can only sell it like.
We could sell it higher, yep. So we can raise the selling price of it. So what is our hamburger? We sell it for Our hamburger we sell for $7.50, it makes us $2.75, or it costs us $2.75, right? So maybe we bump the hamburger up to $8 or $8.25, right? So we could raise the selling price, or if we keep the selling price the same, we could also revise the recipe. We could change the recipe to lower the cost of the ingredients.
Wouldn't that be more risky?
What's that?
Wouldn't that be more risky? Because that's like the reason why people are coming in. It's like
Yeah.
they come in for consistency, they come for that flavor.
Absolutely, that's a great point. So if that is kind of risky to change the recipe because they're already popular.
Yeah.
Right? So, but if you raise your prices and people aren't willing, that price value relationship goes out of whack, then they may not be wanting to buy it, and then it drops down below in popularity. Okay? There's all these things to consider. A BLT. How many of y'all like BLTs? Anybody? Cool. A BLT. When I make my BLT, there's like 8 pieces of bacon, right? I want to see like a big old chunk of bacon and then some lettuce and tomatoes. Most places when you order a BLT, it's like lettuce, tomato, and bacon, right? Like 4, maybe 3, 4 strips of bacon. It's not enough, right? And so maybe that's why my BLT is so expensive, because I have 8 pieces of bacon on there. So if I change my recipe to maybe 6 or maybe 5 pieces, I'm going to lower the cost of to make it, keep the menu price the same, and then maybe that might move it over to the star category because it is popular. People do like it. There's lots of things to consider. So then once we make those changes, we have to decide, is the menu the problem? Okay. How many of y'all have seen in a restaurant, you've sat down in a restaurant, you open up the menu, and some of the recipes or some of the menu items have a little star next to it. What does that star mean?
It's more
Okay.
popular.
It's the most popular, right? So maybe it's like a guest favorite. Maybe it's like the restaurant's favorite, or maybe it's a signature item that they are known for. Okay. What is that star doing? It's drawing your attention to that item. So it may not be a literal star. It may just be it may be a star or a puzzle. As long as it's making them a lot of money, right? It's drawing your attention to that. It could be they want to move that from a puzzle up to a star. So, like Juliana mentioned, is draw your attention to it. Okay. The next time you go and you're like, is that really a customer favorite? Or do they just print that on the menu to make me think that it's a customer favorite that I think I have to have that? You get very jaded after a while. Okay. Or is the problem operational? Okay. Does our recipe cost too much? What is the issue operationally? Do our ingredients cost too much? Does it take too long to prepare it so people don't order it because it takes too long to come out to the table? What are the issues with our items? And then what do? We make changes and then we do it all over again. After a certain period of time, do another analysis and see what has changed. Yes.
Do you think pictures affect the way people order meals?
Pictures absolutely can affect how people order their food because they may look at something and maybe there's an ingredient that they're not familiar with. On Tuesday, was it Tuesday night this week or Monday night? It was Monday night. So Tuesday I had a major paper due that I've been procrastinating for a long time. And so I decided to just go get a hotel room and focus on writing. So I was down in the bar area and the restaurant in the hotel, they had a what is that? Pastor. That was like a pastor roasted cauliflower. And it was literally like a giant head of cauliflower that was marinated in pastor seasonings. And the bartender was telling her she mentioned nothing about pineapples. I'm like, that's like the big signature thing in pastor is like the pineapple, the citrus flavor, right? So she was telling those people all the wrong things. And I was like, just put your headphones on, don't pay attention to what they're saying. this person from the north is gonna think pastor is just like chili and it's not, but whatever. It's not my place to correct. And so, but how do we get on this?
Hombre, I said, do you think like
Oh, pictures, yes. So, sorry, I was like, get on that. So yes, pictures. If there's ingredients that you're not familiar with, sometimes it's helpful to have a picture so people see what it is. They're like, oh, that's a type of squash or whatever, right? But then also you can also see portion sizes. That's also another good thing. It's like how wait, it's like, wow, that is worth that you're paying asking me to pay $20 for that. But then I see a picture of it and I'm like, oh, that's a good price value relationship for that.
I was wondering, do you think it's childish? Because I feel like whenever time I go to like a more fancy or higher up restaurant, there's like no pictures and there's like these names that I've never heard of.
I mean, I guess you could potentially connect it with the level of service, like from a fine dining perspective to like fast food, more fast casual. I do think pictures are more in fast casual dining than fine dining, yes. Um, but I don't know. I wouldn't necessarily call it childish. Um, Sometimes people want to see. There's a restaurant I go to in Houston. They have a paper restaurant. They have a paper menu. It's like a placemat that has their full menu on it. But then there's a QR code you can scan, and the digital menu has all the pictures. And so then you can see that, right? So you can look and oh, I want to see that. I'm looking on the website, and this is what it actually looks like. So yeah, good question. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and pause. I'm gonna go ahead and stop the recording. I'm gonna put up two different recordings for this lecture. The first one will be the lecture. The second one's gonna be the math.